All right. Thank you guys for listening to my talk today. My name is Josh Farrell, and welcome to Yellowstone National Park. It's very scenic in here. Um, uh, Yellowstone National Park's mission statement is to preserve unimpaired the natural and cultural resources and values of the national park system for the enjoyment, education, and inspiration of this and future generations. Now, I hope everyone's staying safe out there from COVID-19, staying inside and social distancing and all that. But today we are going to take a look into a very misunderstood animal, which is the wolf. Wolves are a central part of their environment. Much like humans, wolves are very social animals. And although they appear scary, um, fear of wolves is very misplaced. Wolves are key predators in their ecosystem, and they control many of their prey populations. Without wolves, Yellowstone's ecosystem almost collapsed. So, much like humans, wolves are very social animals. Wolves hunt and live together in what are called packs. These packs are very similar to human families, in which there is one alpha male and one alpha female in each pack. Now, these alphas are the only ones that are allowed to breed, and they are the first to eat at all their kills that they get as a pack. The rest of the pack also has a hierarchy, so below the two alphas, there's also the next one in the hierarchy and so on, so there is a lowest wolf. Now, any wolf besides the alphas can challenge one of the alphas for leadership. So yeah, they can challenge an alpha, and if they win, they gain the alpha's leadership. Pups are born in the springtime in an average of 4 pups per litter. When they are born, they weigh about a pound, and they have their eyes closed shut, and they're pretty much helpless. But by 2 or 3 months old, they are leaving the den, and they are joining the pack in their hunts. So they develop very quickly. Now, if an alpha loses the challenge to one of the lower tier wolves, it will likely either go off on its own or find a new mate and start a new pack. This is also true for lower members. So wolves, they're like humans. They tend to pick on the weak and the weaker wolves. So if a weaker wolf feels like he doesn't belong in that pack, he will also leave and either become a lone wolf or try and start a new pack. Experts in the field that have been around the same wolves for many years will sometimes gain enough trust from the wolf that the wolves in that pack will start treating them as part of their pack. Now, this doesn't mean that the human goes out there and hunts prey with them, but if a situation were to arise where the wolf thinks the human would be in danger and they see them as part of their pack, they would protect them with their life as if it were one of their own. Now, although wolves appear scary, the fear of wolves is greatly misplaced. Now, they are still wild animals, so interacting with them without expertise in the wild could get you seriously hurt or killed. So if you encounter a wolf in the wild, keep your distance. They're very territorial animals, so they will defend their territory and try and attack you. But they are predators, and each of their physical features makes them an expert killing machine. So on average, they weigh about 80 pounds. Their height is about 2 1/3 feet, which, if you want to think about it, on an average person, it probably comes up to, and that's their shoulder height, so their head is a little bit taller than that. It comes up to about 3/4 up your thigh. That's where their shoulder is. So if you want to think about it as like a really big dog, that's about what their size is, except that's all of them. So, and some of them can be even bigger than that. Their length is about 5.5 feet, and then their canine teeth are about 2.5 inches in length. So that's about the length of your pinky. If you want to take a look at your pinky, if you have about average size hands, it's about that. If you're bigger size hands, it might be a little bit smaller than your pinky, but yeah, it's about 2.5 inches in length. And those are razor sharp. They're used to cut open their prey and rip it, and so yeah. They are apex predators, but they have been used as a scapegoat for many decades. For farmers, wolves were blamed because they killed and ate their livestock. This is not necessarily the wolf's fault because they were there first, and again, they're very territorial animals. So they thought that the farmers were invading their territory, and they killed the livestock because it was in their territory, and I mean, they could eat it. So, but this led to the U.S. government exterminating wolves in the Yellowstone National Park in 1920. And we'll take a closer look into Yellowstone a little bit later, but taking out this apex predator is never a good idea for an ecosystem because it could collapse the ecosystem completely, and this almost happened to Yellowstone. Now, wolves are key predators in an ecosystem because they are able to control populations. Because they are at the top of the food chain, prey outnumbers them by a lot. So for a large area, there's not that many wolves. And this is the same for almost any apex predator. There'll be a few of them and many prey. Basically, they control the distribution and population of all the prey in the area because they're at the top of the food chain. So wolves initiate the domino effect when hunting prey. So when a wolf controls the elk population, that will also affect the plant population, which will affect other animal populations. So it's a complete domino effect. Affecting the population of one affects everything else. So yeah, even though they never interact, so like say a wolf and a blue jay, you will never see a wolf eating a blue jay, but the actions of or the wolf populations will affect the blue jay populations based on other factors. So like a wolf hunting an elk, if it brings the elk population down, that raises the fern population, which raises the insect population, and so on and so forth, and that'll raise the blue jay population. So everything in an ecosystem is connected. Think of it like a car engine. So if one of the parts stops working, the entire thing stops working. Now, to look back at Yellowstone, without wolves, Yellowstone's ecosystem almost collapsed. So back in 1920 again, the U.S. eradicated wolves in Yellowstone. And after about 70 years without wolves, the ecosystem was on the brink of collapse. So without wolves in the area, the elk population exploded. And this caused the elk to start to graze near streams and rivers. And without like fear of predation from wolves. This caused a decrease in the deciduous trees in the area, and it completely changed the landscape because they were overgrazing. This led to a decline in beavers and other songbirds and other animals in the area. And then the U.S. government tried to control the overpopulation of elk by killing them themselves, and that happened for more than 30 years. But then in the 1960s, hunters complained that there wasn't enough elk population in Yellowstone, or in the area, so they stopped killing wolves, and then the elk population blew up again, and it led to the same problems. Also, the coyote population rose due to this because there was less competition in the area because wolves were at the top of the food chain. Coyotes were kind of right underneath them. So when wolves disappeared, coyotes kind of took over as one of the bigger predators in the area. And also, yeah, never mind. And so in 1995, U.S. passed a law to reintroduce wolves into Yellowstone. And I think it was only like 21 wolves were released in 1995. And since then, the elk population has decreased back to normal. Tree population and landscape returned to what they were before. Dams were built by beavers again, and wetlands returned, bringing back all the waterfowl and songbirds. And then also the coyote population returned to normal. Before wolves were reintroduced, Yellowstone had probably one of the most stable coyote populations in the country. But after this, it reduced by about 50%, just because after an apex predator was reintroduced, the coyotes couldn't handle it. This also led to the reintroduction of wolves also led to an increase in grizzly bear population, because decreasing elk population led to more berries and everything that they eat, because that's one of their biggest food sources, so they grew. And so wolf population in Yellowstone is an example of a trophic cascade. This is when, like, basically one part of a food web is affected, and so everything else is affected. It's a big chain reaction, and this is what happened in Yellowstone. Some scientists say that if they weren't reintroduced within, or for another like 10 or 15 years after that Yellowstone probably wouldn't have been able to rebound like it did. And now, today, we see those, we see Yellowstone's ecosystem return to pretty much normal before it was affected in 1920. So, wolves are an essential part of their environment. They're very social animals, much like humans. And although they appear scary, fear of wolves is misplaced. Wolves are key predators in an ecosystem by controlling population. And then without wolves, Yellowstone's ecosystem almost collapsed. Thank you guys for listening. Please stay safe and continue to social distance, stay inside. Hopefully this will all be over soon. If you want more info on Yellowstone or wolves or both, you can go to Yellowstone's website, or you can feel free to message me. But thank you guys for listening.